Good evening. I want to call the March 13th, 2025 council meeting to order. First, I want to state that for those listening at home, watching at home, and listening at home, and those in the audience, we do have an executive session planned tonight prior to the adjournment of tonight's council meeting, and it's regarding to pending imminent court action. I also want to call, we have two items. Reverend Jim Case is going to be giving the opening prayer, and the Girl Scouts Tallmadge Service Unit 935, led by Miss Emily Bush, will be conducting a flag ceremony and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So first up, Reverend Case, if you want to please come to the podium. All rise.
Will you pray with me, please? Gracious Lord, we come to you as a community of believers, a community that gives thanks for the Girl Scouts of America, and a community that hopes and prays that you'll be with our fire and our police department, the dispatchers, and all of those who serve our great city. I ask the decisions that are made here tonight through this body of people who have been elected to serve our community will serve it well, giving them wisdom, direction, and hope. And so there may be peace within our city, prosperity within its ranks, and hope for the future. Bless this time we share. In your blessed name we give thanks. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And Emily Bush, if you want to come up and lead the troops for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dismissed.
And thank you, Reverend Case and Emily Bush and Unit 935, the Girl Scouts, Tallmadge Girl Scouts, for that. Next up is roll call. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Christine Sippa.
Here.
Jessica Epstein.
Here.
Mary Gutman.
Here.
Donald Pavlik.
Here.
Ted Roy.
Here.
Nick Rubino.
Here. And note that Mr. Jonathan Bolus is excused for tonight's meeting. Next up is correcting and adopting the previous minutes from council meeting on February 27, 2025. Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Jessica Epstein.
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Donald Pavlik.
Yes.
Ted Roy.
Yes.
Nick Rubino.
Yes.
Christine Sippa.
Yes.
Okay, with that, the motion for adopting and approving the February 27, 25 council meeting minutes has been approved 6-0. Next up is the financial reports, and reading into the record, fire and EMS fund transfer in the amount of $401,000, street maintenance and repair fund transfer in the amount of $350,000, and the police pension in the amount of $87,500 to council on February 25th of 2025. Appropriation report, fund report, and revenue report for the period ending February 28th, 2025 to council on March 7th, 2025. February financial reports to council on March 7th, 2025. Tallmadge Recreation Center profit and loss report for the period ending February 28, 2025 to council on March 7, 2025. Income tax comparisons for the period ending February 28, 2025 to council on March 7, 2025. income tax by source report for the month of February to council on March 7, 2025, and the revenue comparisons for major funds for the period ending February 28, 2025 to council on March 7, 2025, and consolidated investment portfolio for the period ending February 28, 2025 to council March 7, 2025. Having read those reports, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, council floor? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Donald Pavlik.
Yes.
Ted Roy.
Yes.
Nick Rubino.
Yes.
Christine Sipa.
Yes.
Jessica Epstein.
Yes.
Okay, with that, the financial reports read in record passes with a motion of 6-0. Next on the agenda is we have a public hearing tonight. And item number 6, public hearing, we will be discussing ordinance 2025-32, which is in the Planning and Zoning Committee. So I will call on the Planning and Zoning Chair, Miss Mary Gutman, to run this committee. Ms. Gutman?
Thank you. I will call Planning and Zoning to order, and we do have a public hearing tonight. I will open that at 7:05 p.m. We have ordinance 2025-32 at third reading, imposing a 6-month moratorium on acceptance of any zoning application for vape and/or smoke establishments or shops within the city of Tallmadge and providing for immediate enactment, sponsored by Mayor Kilway. And so we will start with public commentary, and I would ask that we'll ask for comments for and against, and if you would approach the podium and give us your full name and address. I believe it's 2 minutes to speak.
Mhm.
Okay, so first, if there is anyone who would like to speak for ordinance 2025-32, to please approach the podium. Okay, thank you. If there's anyone who would like to speak against ordinance 2025-32, please approach the podium. And again, anyone for ordinance 2025-32 may approach the podium. Anyone against 2025-32 may approach the podium. And for the last time, anyone for or against ordinance 2025-32 may approach the podium now. Okay, seeing no comments, then I will close the public hearing at 7:07 p.m. And if anyone at council or administration would like to speak regarding this ordinance at this time.
Just one question, Ms. Raber. The moratorium is 6 months. It kind of resembles what we did with the cannabis. Is there any discussion in that 6-month timeframe to figure out the parameters of what we want to do?
Correct. So the moratorium lasts for 6 months. During that time, our goal is to come back with legislation if determined that that's appropriate. We just want to give ourselves an opportunity to explore. The reason this issue came up is because we were receiving inquiries about the regulations that we had on the books with regard to these shops. That provoked us to look around and see that other communities did have regulations that kind of correlated them more along the lines of what the cannabis type regulations would be. And so we just want to have an opportunity to be able to explore that and see whether or not that's appropriate for our community and bring them back to you. So the legislation will sunset as soon if we have something earlier than the 6 months. If for some reason we run into a snafu, which I don't really foresee, and we can't get it done in the 6 months, then we could ask for an extension, but our goal is to have that done within that time frame.
Thank you.
Any further commentary? I do appreciate your being proactive on this. It seems like an evolving issue, so important to address this sooner than later, for sure. Okay, then, seeing no further commentary, could I have a motion to approve ordinance 2025-32?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Donald Pavlik.
Yes.
Ted Roy.
Yes.
Nick Rubino.
Yes.
Christine Sipa.
Yes.
Jessica Epstein.
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes. Thank you. The ordinance 2025-32 is approved.
Thank you, Ms. Gutman.
Thank you. And then I will close planning and zoning.
Thank you very much. Next up on the agenda is community input, and anybody in the audience that would like to speak on anything regarding anything in the city that's not being addressed further in the agenda can come up now to speak. Okay, seeing that there's no one, next up is agenda additions. If there's any agenda additions that need to be brought forth, council, now is the time. Okay, hearing none, we go right into the next item, which is reports for administrative officers. And the first up is Mayor Kilway.
Thank you very much. I just want to announce that as the Director of Public Safety, I did spend a day last week with our Tallmadge Fire Department. It was, I'm very familiar with the Tallmadge Fire Department, but I've never spent any more than 5 or 10 minutes at the fire station at a time. So spending the day there was not so much enlightening, but it was an eye-opener of how busy they really are. I was able to go on a couple EMS calls. I did even get to go on a fire call, which was I got to ride in the tower. It was great. Did go into the hospital, got to witness behind the scenes in an emergency room what our EMS are facing when they go and bring patients in. So just a better understanding of what's going on within our fire department. I spent time with both the chiefs as well and the battalion chief as well, just trying to get their, their thoughts on day-to-day, where improvements can be made and so forth. Also witnessed at that time, the fire department is going through a period of time where they're increasing their training. And so during that time, they had training scheduled, and because they had calls here and there, they had to move it and reschedule it about 3 times, but they did get their training in. So that was really nice too. I'm also proud to announce that we have 2 new police patrol officers are going to be joining the police department this month. On Wednesday, March the 5th, I had the privilege of swearing in the city's newest police officer, Hunter Chapman. Officer Chapman is a lateral hire from the Springfield Township Police Department. His first shift with Tallmadge is going to be on Monday, March the 17th. I will also be swearing in Jacob Oberlin this next Wednesday, the 19th at 3 o'clock here in council chambers. Jacob is a member of the U.S. Army National Guard and recently graduated from Kent State University Police Academy. His first day with Tallmadge Police Department is going to be March 24th. So anyone on council that would like to come for that swearing in, you're more than welcome to do that. Again, that's going to be Wednesday, March 19th at 3 o'clock here in council chambers. We did attend the Team NEO Economic Development Ed Now annual summit that they have. It was at Kent State Stark campus. I did go with our Director of Administration, and Ed Now event presented in collaboration with the Ohio Economic Development Association and targeted elected officials and community leaders, emphasizing strategies to enhance regional competitiveness and attract business investments. It was about a half a day really diving into economic development and the things that are going on around our state and how they impact Northeast Ohio. It was really a great event to go to. They had a lot of tools for us to go to, breakout sessions, really enlightening. The State of the City is going to be held next Wednesday, March the 19th at the venue. The doors are going to open at 11:15, and if you'd like to register, you can register the event through tomorrow at the Tallmadge Chamber of Commerce website. Since there is no council meeting on March, it's not the 20th. It is March, because that's 27th, right? Due to council's recess, then I will not have my after hours, because my after hours coincide with your council meeting. So my next after hours with the mayor is going to be April 24th from 4 to 6 o'clock p.m. And then on Friday, March the 7th, I participated in a ribbon cutting ceremony at Avala Grill that is located at 338 Northeast Avenue. I'd like to thank Councilwoman Epstein for being in attendance, along with Kim Pilatus, for the executive director from Tallmadge Chamber of Commerce, and also our whole team from Insight, Sean Joyce, Scott Harrington, and Katie Scanlon also joined us for the ribbon cutting. And we just wish Avala Grill the best with their new restaurant. And yesterday, I participated in I didn't participate in the ribbon cutting. I did visit the Tallmadge Brimfield Jed for the opening of their new Dunkin' Donuts. I attended it with some of our team, and we were able to meet the local and regional leadership there. I also yesterday met the Girl Scouts that you saw here today at the Tallmadge Rec Center, and they had a ribbon cutting for a new recycle receptacle, which will be located at the Rec Center. And I was joined by Director of Finance Molly Gilbride and against Councilwoman Jessica Epstein. Thanks for supporting the Girl Scouts. They're our future leaders. And then finally, I visited with the Tallmadge Ministerial Gathering and shared a city update with them as well this last week. And that's just a little bit of what I did. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Director of Administration, Economic Development, Mr. Iguazito.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to provide a brief update. We have scheduled in-person interviews with 3 economic developer candidates. It is posted until filled, so we continue to conduct we have a few more phone interviews to do, and I think by mid-April, we should likely have an offer out. We're also scheduling interviews with the candidate for the combined civil service clerk and administrative assistant. And then finally, we continue to conduct business and retention expansion visits. Since the last meeting, we visited Steer Enterprise and NZ Manufacturing. And we do have additional visits scheduled in the JED coming up, so I'll have several to report on over the next couple of meetings. We are working with the Portage County Economic Developer and also Brimfield's Economic Developer. Pending your questions, that's all I have for this evening.
Any questions? Thank you for the report. Next up, Director of Public Service, Mr. Roy.
Good evening. I just wanted to announce that on March 15th, the MACA passes go on sale to non-residents. They've been on sale for a month now to residents, so you might want to let people know that there's some competition now starting, so get the passes. Sue, can you put up the PowerPoint, please? I understand that there might be some confusion about the trash bids that went out. We last time said that we were awarding it to Rumpke. If you look at the bid tabulation sheet, there was a lower bid, Waste Management, but they withdrew their bid. So they did not, you got to go to the next bidder then. So just in case you hear anything or see anything like that, that's why that is. And there's no sense in putting a withdrawn bid on our slideshow. So I just didn't see the point to it. The last thing I want to talk about is, if it works, it's on, is our salt supply for 2025, 2026. So that's next winter. And usually how this happens is we have a 3,400 ton barn. We order 3,200 tons each winter. And what that 3,200 tons does is refill the barn. Well, because the last 2 winters weren't bad, we had nowhere to put the extra salt. So we ordered 1,500 tons because we have nowhere to put salt. Well, it's a bad winter. I'm out of salt, and we already ordered the 1,500, and it didn't fill that thing up at all. And I probably saw maybe another month and a half, maybe 2 months of winter to go. So I need 3,400 tons before winter starts. They have things called summer fill. I've never done it, but I'm just pre-warning council now. I'm coming back and asking for a reappropriation. I've already spent the money on the salt that was budgeted for. That was at 1,500. I need to fill that barn, and then next year I'm probably going to order 2,200. So just letting everybody know I'm going to be asking for a reappropriation for salt because I cannot start next winter with a salt barn like that. And if you look to the right, you can see the prices. If from 2006 to 2024, they've stayed pretty consistent. There are those couple years there, 2019, 2020, that they were up around $70 a ton, 2018, $79 a ton. We actually use 2 programs, ODOT, which is the state purchasing program, and then the CUE, which is the university program there. The reason why we do that is why would you put all your eggs in one basket? Sometimes you have problems with one supplier, and maybe they have a different supplier than the other ones. Sometimes they don't, though. They both use the same supplier. It depends on how the bids go. So we use both programs, and I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that I'll be asking for a reappropriation. I'm actually going to order it. So I don't know how much I know how much I need, 3,400 tons. I don't know the price going into next year because they don't award it yet. But I'm going to order it anyways, just letting you guys know. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions?
Is there going to be a communication coming out by the city on the change of trash service?
Yes, so the trash company, Rumpke, is actually doing that. They actually sent us over their mailing. We're actually reviewing it. So it's coming out. I mean, don't, keep in mind, that doesn't happen until July. So we've got plenty of time. No need to hurry up. I mean, we're good. We're actually getting the samples of the new trash cans, because the new trash cans are coming. And keep in mind, these trash cans are just going to have the city logo on them. So after this switch out, we'll never switch trash cans again. Those will stay at your house, and in 5 years, if the contract changes, those cans stay there. There won't be this hassle of swapping out anymore. So, but yeah, it's coming. You're welcome.
Any further questions? Thank you for the report.
Thank you.
Next up, Director of Finance, Ms. Gilbride.
Good evening, thank you. You received the February financial reports. Everything is going well. Our income tax is coming in a little slower this year than it has in the past few years, but even looking at March's numbers, I think we're going to see a little bit of a rebound. I know in the previous report, I had mentioned that every couple of years we go through a process of sending out non-filing letters to residents who have not filed their taxes. We did that at the end of last year, so I just received a report from Rita, so I thought it'd be interesting for council to know. We sent out in, I think, October, November, 3,307 non-filing letters. That resulted in returns being filed with $98,000 of tax liabilities and penalties and interest. Of that, we've collected $42,000 so far. After the letter is sent, if they do not respond, we go through a process of sending out what are called administrative subpoenas, subpoenaing them to give their tax documents to Rita so that their returns can be filed. We went through that process. We sent out 2,596 subpoenas. That resulted in $215,208 of additional tax liabilities that were recovered. And of that, so far, we've collected just over 56,000 of that. So Rita will now be in the process of working through getting those collected, maybe through payment plans or whatever action needs to be taken. Sometimes they will do civil filings to collect those. But just to give you an idea of the process we go through and the importance of that, that's a significant amount of revenue that we need to collect to make sure that we can provide all of our services. End of report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Gilbride?
Is there additional financial burden to the city when we have to send out those notices? And
It cost me $1 per subpoena, so I spent basically $2,569 to recover a total of $313,000 worth of assets.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions? Ms. Gilbride, thank you very much for the update. Next up is Director of Law, Ms. Raber.
Thank you. Just two quick items. I wanted to just point out for the record that we did have an agenda addition tonight. It's ordinance 2025-46, and it was assigned to the Public Service Committee. So we will be addressing that in that committee. And then I just also wanted to note that I had requested a executive session tonight. I am not going to be requesting that. I thought it might be necessary, but at this point in time, it is not necessary. So I will not be asking you to go into executive session this evening.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Rayburn? Hearing none, thank you very much for the update. Next up, we go into our reports of standing committees of Council of the Whole. And first up is Planning and Zoning, and Ms. Gutman, will you please start us off?
Thank you, Mr. Pavlik. I will open planning and zoning this evening. We have before us at first reading ordinance 2025-44 with Exhibit A, setting a public hearing on April 24th, 2025 at 7:01 p.m., amending and supplementing sections 1104.06 accessory and temporary use table and 1104.08N outdoor storage of vehicles and equipment of the Tallmadge codified ordinances, sponsored by Mayor Kilway. And would Mayor or anyone else like to comment on this?
This is primarily to allow in a limited aspect, like those codex outdoor, storage containers. We're just, as you had seen through the supplemental sections of 1104.06 and 1104.08, just changing some parameters, and they're currently not allowed in the city, and so we would like to allow some of our businesses only to allow them to use them on a limited basis as approved by council.
And only in the industrial,
Yes, only industrial.
and not in any of the overlay areas that could be adjacent to residential.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council at this time? Okay, then we will.
And we'll need a public hearing on April 24th,
Yes, ma'am.
2025, and this matter will be in front of Planning and Zoning next month.
I believe that I said that at the beginning, but I will just again say that we'll have a public hearing for 2425 at 7:01 p.m. Okay, and anything else for planning and zoning? Okay, seeing nothing, I'll close committee.
Thank you. Next up, we have Finance, and Ms. Sippa will run this evening. Ms. Sippa, you start us off?
I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee. The first readings of ordinances and resolutions, ordinance 2025-38, setting a fee for utility construction permits per TCO 961, management, administration, and control of the use of the city's public rights-of-way for the city of Tallmadge and providing for immediate enactment. Sponsor, Director of Public Service Rohr.
Yes, good evening. If you guys would, I'd like to request that this ordinance be passed at first reading this evening. So this management of the administration control of the city's public right-of-ways is not a new chapter, but it's been in the books for a while now, but we're actually enforcing it and starting to use it, and so we need to start setting fees for it. And the reason why is we have a pretty aggressive utility fiber come into town, and they are taking up a lot of resources that we didn't anticipate before. If you think about utilities, you would have a gas company tying into one house or maybe two houses, which didn't take up a lot of our time to review. Well, now the fiber is going coast to coast. It's going a mile in all directions, and now we have to take time to review the plans. It's taken up a lot of time. So that's why, if you read that ordinance, the first, the setting of it is a $200 for the first 200 feet. So that's an individual house, right? If you think about it. Then it's $20 for each additional 100 feet after that purpose. So now we're talking about the utilities that are running coast to coast through the city. So that's really what this is. And we never had the fee set before, but we need to set the fee.
And I just wanted to point out, this would apply to any utility that would be in the right-of-way that extended that way. So right now, it happens to be a particular type, but it could apply to anybody.
I was just going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
So with this, we have our normal fee, so this would just be added to our fee structure. Okay.
Correct.
And do these utility companies, in this particular case, do they get a bond?
Yes,
Okay, so they have a performance bond
yes.
with the city? Okay. Standing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Any discussion?
I would make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-38. At first reading.
I'll second it.
We have a first and a second motion. Any discussion? Okay. Sue?
Ted Roy,
Yes.
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2025-38 passes.
Thank you.
7-0. Oh, 6-0, sorry. Okay, ordinance 2025-39, authorizing the mayor to accept the Bureau of Justice Assistance fiscal year 2024 Rural and Small Department Violent Crime Reduction Program grant, creating the necessary funds, appropriating the necessary funds, and providing for immediate enactment. Sponsors Mayor Kilway.
Yes, so basically, this is just a grant that we applied for in cooperation with the Village of Lakemore, Cauca Falls, and Stowe, and the Village of Mogador, and our portion would be receiving approximately $56,917 in funds during the grant period to purchase equipment and cover training and overtime costs.
Do you have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Sue?
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Ted Roy,
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-39 passes 6-0. Ordinance 2025-45, authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into contract for the involvement of East Avenue Road from North Avenue to the roundabout and providing for immediate enactment. A sponsor is Director of Public Service Rohr.
So this is the reconstruction of East Howell Road between North Avenue and the roundabout. It's passed through budget. It doesn't have to go first reading.
Does not need to go first reading.
I thought we had plans ready for that. Isn't that supposed to happen this year?
Yes, so this is just authorizing us to go out to bid. The plans are
Go
done.
out to bid. Gotcha.
Any idea when they're going to start the project?
As soon as we get the bid out.
Motion?
Motion to pass.
Second.
Any discussion? Sue?
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Ted Roy,
Yes.
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 2025-45 passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Any additional items for the Finance Committee? Hearing none, I close Finance.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sippa. And we move right down the order to Personnel, and Ms. Sippa, will you begin that?
Okay, looks like we have 3 ordinances that were tabled earlier. So ordinance 2024-75 was tabled until June 26, 2025. Ordinance 2024-76 is tabled until April 10th, 2025. And ordinance 2024-77 is tabled until April 10th, 2025. There's nothing else on our agenda. Does anyone else have any additional items? Hearing none, I close Personnel.
All right, thank you. Next up, Safety, and Mr. Rubino, would you kick us off?
Thank you. I call Safety Committee to order. The Safety Committee deals with disaster services, communications, fire, paramedics, police, and health. We currently have no legislation before us. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Safety Committee? Hearing none, I close committee.
Thank you. Next up, Community Issues, Mr. Roy.
Yes, I'd like to open Community Issues. Community Issues Committee deals with Parks and Recreation, Civic Affairs, and liaison between Council and Recreation Board of Intergovernmental Affairs. Tonight, we have no legislation before us. Is there any additional comments or questions? If not, I'll go ahead and close committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Public Service and Ms. Epstein.
Thank you. I call Public Service Committee to order. The Public Service Committee deals with streets, highways, sidewalks, buildings, and improvements, water, sewer, electricity, gas, energy resources, recycling, waste, and trash. We have before us at first reading this evening ordinance number 2025-40, authorizing the mayor to contract with HZW Environmental Consultants for environmental remediation and consulting services for the property located at 892 Northwest Avenue and providing for immediate enactment. The sponsor is Director of Public Service Rohr. Would you like to speak to this ordinance?
Yes, good evening. This also can go 3 readings, but this is to hire the consultant. So keep in mind, we purchased the property up there on Barney's Busy Corners up there. It's the old muffler shop. Was a gas station at one time. Has some issues that need cleaned up. They're minor, but still, you gotta hire them to go through and make sure it's being done right.
Phase 1 was done environmental?
Yeah.
And so they recommended a Phase 2 or findings?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, this can go to the next reading unless there's a motion. All right, we'll move on to ordinance 2025-41, authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into a contract for cremation park improvement at the Tallmadge Cemetery and providing for immediate enactment. The sponsor is Director of Public Service Rohr. Would you like to speak to this ordinance?
Yes. Also, this one does not have to be passed this evening. It can go 3 readings. This is, keep in mind, we're running out of room over at our cemetery, so the remaining space, we're trying to do cremation parks, plazas. We have the columbariums. This is different. This is like headstones on the ground. Much, very nice. It'll be a very nice park decorated with, concrete walkways and landscaping, so.
All right, we will go to second reading unless there is a motion for that one as well.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 2025-41.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Ted Roy,
Yes.
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-41 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have ordinance 2025-42, authorizing the Director of Public Service to advertise for bids and the mayor to enter into a contract with the community center roof repair and providing for immediate enactment. The sponsor is Director of Public Service Rohr. Would you like to speak to this ordinance?
Yes, thank you. This one also does not have to be passed at first reading. It can go 3. And this is there's a repair that's needed on the community center roof. It's been budgeted. The engineering's done. We're ready to go out to bid for it.
I would say since it is budgeted, that I would make a motion to approve this as well at first reading, 2025-42.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Ted Roy,
Yes.
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes. Ordinance 2025-42 has passed with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next up, we have ordinance 2025-43, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with OR Associates LLC to provide right-of-way acquisition services for the sum CR 630-2.4 PID 112869 East Avenue Phase 1 project and providing for immediate enactment. The sponsor is Director of Public Service Rohr. Would you like to speak to this ordinance?
Yes, thank you. This is one I would like to ask that is passed tonight at first reading, requesting that. So this is to hire the O.R. Cole & Associates for the right-of-way acquisitions along the East Avenue project. So that's from the city limit out there by Brimfield all the way to Monroe up by the rec center. Keep in mind that project's due to start in 2027, and this acquisition right-of-way stuff needs to get going this year, and it's just all part of the project. We did follow the ODOT procedures. ODOT did bless this, and the consultants are Colon Associates, and they're well-known.
All right, is there a motion?
Take a motion to approve 2025-43.
I'll second it.
Great. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Donald Pavlik.
Yes.
Ted Roy.
Yes.
Nick Rubino.
Yes.
Christine Sipa.
Yes.
Jessica Epstein.
Yes.
Mary Gutman.
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-43 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
Last, we have ordinance 2025-46, authorizing the Director of Public Service to negotiate and the mayor to enter into an amendment for the aggregation agreement for gas aggregation services with Eastern Power and Gas, EPNG, and providing for immediate enactment. The sponsor is Director of Public Service Rohr. Would you like to speak to this?
Yes, and I'd like to request that this one is passed this evening. We are on a time frame with this. So what ended up happening is we got an aggregate going with natural gas last year. We signed the agreement with Eastern Energy there, and it was at a fixed rate. We made it through winter. We got a phone call last week from Eastern Energy that due to circumstances out of their control, technically they overextended themselves. They have to cut so many customers loose, and they got to offer this change in the agreement, which puts us on a variable rate now. And at the end of the day, if we don't sign this, we lose our aggregate, and everybody in the whole city's on their own. That's the importance of this. If we do sign this, we stay on the aggregate, and when the prices of gas drop, they're high now because we're in winter, right? Because people are using gas. They will drop in summer, and at that time, we will go for a fixed rate, and we'll get this readdressed again.
I also want to point out that the amendment offers a discount on the variable from the market rate of 5 cents less. So it guarantees that in the meantime until we can lock it in again. And we did do our due diligence on this issue, and we did explore all our options, including we did retain outside counsel to review this matter as well. And this at this time is the smoothest option. It's not a great option, but this is the option that we have.
It's the option to stay with the aggregate, so it keeps us all as a group. But keep in mind, you can opt out at any time. You sign the contract, right, with your gas provider. You can opt out any time. This is just an opportunity to get a good price. And unfortunately, this happened to this company, and they got to get out.
And to be clear, too, this is happening with all the communities that they have contracted with this particular provider, so everyone's in a similar situation. It's our standing that if people were contracted with them independently and not part of the aggregation, they're being told that they're being canceled from their plans, so.
They're being canceled.
Right.
They don't have this option to get a variable. I mean, they just don't. I mean, so.
They just go back to the Enbridge rate.
And the variable rate's with EPNG, right? That's what you're,
It is with Enbridge,
yeah, Enbridge, okay.
What's our current rate,
3.85.
and what is it going to go to once we hit variable?
Variable, I heard the first month's 4.10. And we'll
And
get 5 cents less, so it'd be 4.05.
where are we hoping realistically to lock in possibly in the summer for a fixed?
High threes.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, this company just overextended themselves.
And that starts April 1st. If we approve this tonight, sign it, and get back to them, this would start April 1st.
Yeah, and what happens is why we're on the deadline is they have so many days they got to notify everybody. And so that clock's ticking. I mean, if you think about it, it's already March, what is this, 13th, 14th? 13th. So they got to get the letters out and they got to notify everybody.
Do you have an estimate of the average increase in cost per household that could create going from where we are now to that variable rate spot?
Actually, it was less than our 3.85.
Had been.
Had
I
been.
think the issue is that we're thankfully going into a warmer months, where typically people are not using as much gas. So hopefully, our goal is to, before we get, back into a cold season, to have a fixed rate option for people. But again, they can shop and they may find better rates out there than what the aggregation offers.
A
It's
fixed
kind of
rate that's lower at that time.
correct.
You don't want to set the price now because obviously it's winter and you want to wait till you're not using gas to grab that.
And just to clarify, so like looking at the ordinance, it says the agreement is for the period April 2025 to March 2026, but come summer, we would be able to go and renegotiate for better rates this summer?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, because it's a variable rate.
The agreement that we would sign indicates that we would have the ability to lock it in at a fixed rate if that becomes a good option.
If a desirable rate comes, yep.
So, and the term is shorter than what it originally was as well. So, I mean, we're dealing with that too. It was originally going to run through September of 2026, and now it would be March 2026. But again, what we anticipate is that we would be able to lock in before that and change the term. It's frustrating, and you can see that, and what's in the one whereas clause section is what they told us. So they put it in writing to us, which we just received today, which is why it's been very fluid situation. The reason for why they needed to cancel, and that's cited to in the whereas sections, or not cancel, but amend.
And at the end of the day, we've been dealing with this since last Wednesday, and the mayor and the law director have been at this almost the entire time. I mean, we've been talking till late in the evening about this whole thing. So, not fun, but it is. I mean, this is the deal. We got to make it.
I would like to, just for our viewers who don't have the legislation in front of them, read that part of the whereas, just for their information of what's going on. Excuse me. Whereas EPNG has notified the city that due to a, quote, series of unforeseen circumstances, including an unexpectedly cold winter, an unforeseen tariff/trade war, and an unexpected capacity assignment charge from Enbridge Gas Ohio, end quote, that it needs to make this amendment, and that, quote, when an EPNG learned that the amount of the capacity charge that Enbridge was planning to assign to EPNG and the timing of that assignment in the context of high natural gas price volatility, EPNG quickly determined it could not incur Enbridge's proposed capacity assignment obligation unless Eastern reduced its total served customer load for the remainder of 2025. And that's basically why they're wanting to do this.
Yeah.
And we've explored if we, don't allow this to occur, and basically what will happen is there will be a drop, and so everyone would drop and go to that,
You're on your own.
the SEO rate, which was what we were talking about earlier, but this at least locks in that they'll get the 5-cent difference. Which again is not, it's not ideal, but it's better than dropping and having people have to go to the market rate for now.
And
And again, they can still choose to opt out. So again, at any time, they can opt out. And if they find a better rate that they want choose, they do not have to participate in the aggregation. So they can make those selections.
And the main driver of this was EPNG just missed the mark of how much gas was going to be used based on the cold winter.
They underestimated.
Yeah,
Yep.
They estimated, yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that. I would also just point out the city does have a page dedicated to this information with the link for those potentially watching at home to Apples if you did want to shop on your own. There's some pretty good information on that website, the City of Tallmadge website. So if you're interested, I would encourage anyone to check that out.
And Mrs. Epstein, as this develops, we'll be able to supplement that information with additional information. But again, this is a very, very short time frame to try to get everything lined up. So we're doing the best we can to get that information out and pushed out to everybody.
Yes, and the information on there is a nice starting point for people, I think. So just wanted to highlight that. Do we have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-46 at first reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ted Roy,
Yes.
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Ordinance 2025-46 passes with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Epstein.
Just let me close.
Oh,
the
that's right,
committee
sorry,
real
my
quick.
bad.
We have no additional items. If there's anything else from council, and hearing none, now I close committee.
Thank you. All right, next up, reports of special committees, Council Operation Committee. Mr. Bolus isn't here. He's usually the one that runs the Operations Committee. Is there anything else that needs to be brought before council? Okay, hearing none, go into announcements. Any announcements that need to be brought up? Okay, none. Next up is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second, and before we call the roll, it was noted earlier by Ms. Raber that we do not have an executive session tonight. So, Madam Clerk, you please call the roll?
Nick Rubino,
Yes.
Christine Sippa,
Yes.
Jessica Epstein,
Yes.
Mary Gutman,
Yes.
Donald Pavlik,
Yes.
Ted Roy.
Yes.
Okay, with that, adjournment, 6-0. I call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.